Okay, folks, so this week we are starting to look at two equations at once and trying to find the point that they have in common. These equations are in slope-intercept form. They're going to be lines. So if they cross, they're all going to cross at one point, and we're trying to find that point. So on Monday, I gave you an assignment with some other videos kind of showing you how to do this. But today I want to come on and do a few problems of my own so we can go forward with that. So we're going to graph these two lines, which we've done a lot of. But now what we're going to do is we're going to graph them on the same grid, and we're going to look for where they cross. All right, we're finding the point that they have in common. So we're going to take them one at a time. So we take the first equation. My slope is -2, which I'm going to think of as -2/1, right? And my y-intercept is 3. So I'm going to start up at 3. 1, 2, 3. And then my slope is -2/1. So I'm going to go down 2 and right 1. And obviously you have paper, maybe you have graph paper, so you can be a little bit more precise than I can be on the whiteboard. But I'm going to try to do my best. So from here I'm going to go down 2 and over 1. And then down 2 and over 1. And I'm do that a few times. And that's going to create that line that, again, you can use a ruler. You can use a ruler, a straight edge of some kind. All right, so that's the first line. Now the second line, 2x minus 1. So my y-intercept is -1. So I'm going to start down at -1. And now my slope is +2/1. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. Oh, and look where I am. I'm landing right on the spot there. So I'm not even going to do any more. I'm going to just draw that line there. And so now this is clearly the point where they are crossing. But when I need to give those coordinates, the final answer, what are the coordinates of the point that they're crossing? Well, if you look, that looks like it's at over 1 and up 1. So the coordinates where it's crossing are 1, 1. So that would be our solution. So you graph the two lines, but then you also have to mark clearly where they cross and label it. Okay? All right, let's do another one here so you can see. And again, try to be as precise as possible. Most of the ones that I'm going to give you to do for practice, they should be crossing at whole number points. Okay? So let's say y equals -x minus 1 and y equals -5x plus 3. All right? So set that up. You write that down. I'm going to set up my axes here. I'm trying to space it out as even as possible. It's not perfect with my whiteboard here. You have a better chance to be a little bit more precise on your paper. Okay? So, with that in mind now, let's graph the first one. So this is going to y-intercept of -1. So I'm going to start down at -1. And then my slope is also -1. Remember, if there's no number there, there's a 1. So since it's -x, it's -1. So we think of that as -1/1. So we go down 1 and right 1. Down 1 and right 1. Okay? And that's going to be our line right there. So that's the first line. Okay? Now the second one, which I'll use a different color, my y-intercept is 3. So I'm going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3, put a dot. And now my slope is -5, which I'm going to think of as -5/1. So from this point, I'm going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Whoop, there it is. There's the point where they're going to cross. So this is a pretty steep line that I'm going to draw in. And there's the point where they cross. So now, what are the coordinates of that point? Well, it looks like it's to the right 1 and down 2. So that means it's 1 in the x and -2 in the y. That is the point where they cross. Okay? So for all of these problems, you should be graphing the two lines, just like we've done, and then finding the point where they cross and labeling the point. That's the point that the equations have in common. Okay? Let's do one more together, have you pause the video, and then I'll go over it with you, and then we're going to get practice for today. Okay? So for this one, let's say y equals -1/2 x minus 1, and y equals x minus 4. Okay? So why don't you pause the video? I'm going to set up my axis so you can use that time to work as well. See if you can find the point where they cross, and then we'll go over it in a minute. Okay? Alright, so if there wasn't enough time for you to do it, then just like I said, pause the video, and then when you're ready, play it, and I'll go over the answer. Okay, so we're back. We're looking for the point where these two cross. So we're going to start out with this one here. This has a y-intercept of -1, so I'm going to put a dot on -1. And now my slope is -1/2. So again, remember, rise over run. That means I'm going to go down 1 and right 2. Down 1 and right 2. Again, if you've got the potential to use a ruler, that would be great. Okay? Now my next equation starts down at -4 on the y-axis. So that's where I'm starting. And then there's no number here, so remember we said you always think of it as being 1. So my slope is 1, which means it's going to be 1 over 1. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1. Up 1 over 1. There it is, right? Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. I could do it again, up 1 over 1. So there's the point that they are crossing right there. Okay? So again, what is that point? It looks like it's 2 to the right and 2 down to me, which would be 2, -2. Okay? So hopefully that helps a little bit. We had additional videos on Monday, so you watch this video, you watch the videos on Monday, and hopefully between those you start to get the hang of it. We're going to be practicing today and tomorrow with this, so we're spending this week kind of finding the points that these two lines have in common by graphing. So work on the practice. If you have questions, email me. All right? We'll talk to you soon.